We're taught as women that you're not allowed to confront. You should be quiet. Whereas if you're a guy, then it's acceptable to do that. So I think that I've probably raged against that, being forced into a box as a woman. I kind of almost can't help myself but speak out about things that I feel are an injustice or not right. As a girl and as a woman, you then get told that you're difficult, or that you shouldn't say these things. It's not what girls do. It's not what women do. You should do it in a different way. And I really struggle with the idea of should. For me, I would challenge back and say, why not?
Hello and welcome to Shaping Success, a brand new and very exciting podcast from Simply Be, all about women at the top of their game with me, Fleur East. As a singer and broadcaster, I'm inspired by women who push boundaries, women who have carved a different path to society's stereotypes, women who refuse to fit in. And I want to find out who and what shaped their journey to success. So, in this podcast series, I'm joined by female icons from all walks of life to talk about their inspirations, heroes, and the moments that changed them. We'll hear from some of the biggest female names and the ones you might know less about as they share their remarkable stories of determination and dedication and reveal the moments and icons that have shaped them along the way. Ultimately, our guests all have one thing in common. They're killing it. So let's meet them. Today's guest is a woman known for her frank, down-to-earth approach to television presenting. As a producer, presenter, and journalist, Anna Richardson is well known for fronting some of the most talked about shows on TV, from the headline-grabbing Naked Attraction to a hard-hitting documentary about neurodiversity. Anna is the queen of tackling challenging subjects with warmth and sensitivity, and a touch of humour on the side. Her straightforward manner to subjects us Brits tend to shy away from has cemented her place as one of Britain's favourite on-screen hosts. I can't wait to hear about her journey to the top. Welcome to Shaping Success, Anna Richardson.
Thank you. I sound amazing.
I mean, you are.
Thank you for that. What an incredible introduction. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you because you tackle all the controversial topics that most people tend to shy away from or don't ever want to talk about.
Yeah.
Have you always been like that? Have you always been really comfortable?
I love a taboo. I love a taboo. I think, I've never had a problem talking about stuff that's difficult, and it might have something to do with my background and my childhood. So my father's a priest. Mm-hmm. My mother was an RE teacher. I was brought up in the church. I was brought up in a vicarage.
Wow.
So for me, there was this weird sort of schizophrenic life of the door, literally the house was always open to any kind of person. It could have been the bishop, it could have been somebody on the street, it could have been a drug addict, it could have been somebody getting married. So the door was always open. So I had that natural curiosity in terms of who was going to arrive in the house. But at the same time, with it being the Church of England, this was back in the 70s and 80s, there was quite a lot of shame around, you don't talk about difficulty, don't talk about that. So I think I learned quite quickly to go, F this, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And I'm not ashamed, I'm not afraid to tackle things.
So you think it was like the inner rebel?
Definitely. I'm the only girl in the family. I was brought up in this very sort of strict religious environment. So I think that there is that person that wants to confront authority and just say, why can't I say that? Let's talk about this. Why can't we talk about this? So, I think I've probably, my inner 8-year-old coming out as never.
How have your parents reacted to your career then? Daughter of a vicar and an RE teacher.
I think they've both rolled their eyes and kind of gone, oh, okay, we've suspected that this might happen. So I think I was either going to sort of end up, pregnant and barefoot and sort of with billions of children, or actually sort of tackling authority and doing something else. Yeah, so I think they kind of rolled their eyes and thought, we kind of knew that you were going to be tricky.
Yeah, we knew we had a tricky child in our house. That's so funny. Now, most people know you for a lot of the recent shows that you've hosted, but you've been a presenter for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So where did it all start?
So I started in telly. I started in production. So I started in television just after I graduated, which would have been 93?
Wow.
94? So, and let me tell you, back in the day, I know everybody says this, that, in my day, but back in the day, it was really hard to get into television. This is pre-internet, pre-mobile phones, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So the only way you could get a job in television was, at the time, the Guardian newspaper used to have their media section on a Monday. And if you wanted to get into TV, you would have to buy Monday's Guardian, go through the media section where they literally advertise jobs, and you would have to write in and apply for those jobs. So I got really lucky. I did a postgrad in journalism, and off the back of that, I applied for a job in The Guardian to go on to The Big Breakfast. To cut a very long story short, I got a job on The Big Breakfast, which was, at the time, you guys, all of you will be too young to remember this, but it was the seminal breakfast show of the 90s, with Chris Evans and Gabby Roslin and Paula Yates. It was anarchy. And so I that's when I started my career in TV, was on that.
So how did you navigate them from that to then becoming a presenter? How did you then start fronting the shows?
I flip-flopped between various jobs in TV. So I've done every side of the camera. So I have been a producer, I'm now a presenter, but I've also run development in television, which is the engine of ideas. So I've done every side. But starting off in production, it's very difficult, as you know, to translate into presenting. I was producing a consumer show when I was in my 20s, and we needed a reporter to do some sort of little VTs on the show. And I remember my boss going, God, we haven't really got any money. I mean, you sort of look okay. So maybe, do you want to have a crack at being the reporter? I was like, oh, God, okay then. And that's how I got my break as a presenter. Literally, I was producing a show and there was just a slot to try and have a crack at being a reporter. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, but that, in a way, I wonder whether we've kind of come full circle now, because there's so much opportunity for young people now in the media. And, you guys can all produce, present, edit, everything. So I wonder whether we've kind of like come full circle back in terms of that opportunity.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, did you know that you always wanted to be in front of the camera, though, when you started?
I knew that I would be. I knew that I would be. And I've known that when I did a research chat with your producer, I said this to Alex, the producer, that I knew from when I was 7 or 8 that I'd be on TV. It was odd.
You did?
Yeah.
What was that feeling? Where did that come from?
I mean, it's whether or not you kind of believe in, I do believe in whether something's fated or predestined or whatever. Right. So I had an absolute knowing that I would be on TV. And I knew that when I was 7 or 8. And I remember a mate of mine, her mother saying, oh, girls, what are you going to be when you grow up? And, my mate was like, oh, yeah, I might be a nurse. And I was like, I'm going to be on TV. I just knew that I would.
How did everybody react? Because you went to school in Staffordshire, right? And it's quite a small village.
Yes.
So how did people react when you were like, yeah, I'm going to be on TV? Were they like, yeah, all right, love?
Well, I was sent away to boarding school in Staffordshire. So I went to an all-girls boarding school. And I mean, I think that maybe I was probably a bit of a sort of show-off, I suppose, within the class. I enjoyed hanging out with the girls. I enjoyed the entertainment of it all. So I don't think anybody was particularly surprised. But I mean, it's just one of those things that you just know. I just knew that that's what I was going to do. Yeah. But it was hard getting there. It was really difficult getting there. But I was lucky that I just had that knowing that that's what I wanted to do.
So did it all start from when you applied to that job in the Guardian? That's where it all began for you, and then it just kind of snowballed from there?
I did, before I applied for that job, after leaving uni, I did a lot of work experience at BBC North. Okay. So I was desperately trying to get in, but it was difficult. It was really hard. I mean, I worked for free for months on end on various different shows. Which wouldn't be allowed now. But, back in the 90s, it was a bit like, oh, God, you've got some annoying 23-year-old that, is trying to think she can break into television. Let's exploit her. And clearly I was up for being exploited. But, yeah, I did a lot of work experience, but I just kept on going and kept on going. And then I realised that my only chance, really, of breaking into this industry is to be a journalist. So that's when I did my postgrad in journalism. And then kind of, in a way, through The Guardian, the doors opened onto The Big Breakfast.
So it's been a real graft.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, but you know yourself anyway. It still is. So, I want to sort of disabuse anybody of the idea that the media and television is kind of glamorous and exciting and easy, and it's really hard work.
Yeah.
Really hard work. And in a way, it should be. I think that we should hold ourselves to standards and quality. So, yeah, it's hard work, but I've had the best time.
Yeah. Oh, and that's why I just can't wait to hear all about the moments and everything that's happened behind the scenes that have shaped you and got you here today. Firstly, one of the moments that most people will know you for is Naked Attraction.
Oh, yeah.
That show, 2016, it's one of my favourite shows, genuinely, on TV. And I will never forget when the first episode aired, and me and my husband sat down and I was like, babes, we have to watch this.
Gotta watch this.
We sat down, we watched it. And there was a woman on there that was naked and she was choosing. It was one of the women that were choosing. And we were just like, oh my goodness, how are people this brave? Like going on TV. The day after we watched it, we were in Soho, walking down the street, and we saw the woman that was on the show.
Did you?
The day after. And we went, we just passed her in the street and she almost gave us a look of, they've watched it.
I know.
Yeah, they've watched it.
It was me.
I mean, it just rocked people's worlds. It was one of the first TV shows, primetime TV shows, where we saw naked people.
Yeah.
Just in an unfiltered way, just normal bodies on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. So Naked Attraction is, just stand out, just hands down, my favourite ever show that I've ever done, worked on, presented, you name it. I love it. And long may it reign. When it was first pitched to me, I can remember sitting down with the team and saying, you must be out of your, completely out of your mind. The idea that we're doing a dating show with people totally naked on British television, we're just going to get mullered in the press. So this is where, in a way, I think that maybe my, producing and development head came into play, because once we'd really bashed out the format with the team and worked out why are we doing this show, I actually felt really comfortable with then presenting it and knowing that I would then have to go and defend it in the press, because we knew that we were going to get a lot of backlash in the press. But I think once everybody got their head around it and the fact that, yes, that you've got the funny gameplay, yes, you've got this crazy sort of dating in reverse thing, but actually the show is about acceptance. So once you're able to defend it in that way, I knew that it would rate really, really well.
Can you remember like the line that was given to you, like the moment where you went, oh yeah, no, that strikes a chord with me and that's why I want to do this?
Yeah, I think it's when we were talking about the fact that there's going to be an educational aspect to it, that we're going to have these little VT moments of talking about the fact that, the average penis length is 7 inches long and whatever. I just thought as long as we can embrace some education within it, as long as we can embrace diversity and acceptance, I'm all for it. Because again, as you said at the very beginning of the chat, I enjoy a taboo. I enjoy confronting things head on. So for me, I knew I could justify the series, that it isn't just, giggling at people's nipples. It's actually, it's about acceptance. So yeah, I mean, I love it. It makes me cry with laughter.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that we're all one big, happy, naked family.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said the word acceptance as well, because me and my sister were talking about the show and we were saying it was one of the first times that we'd seen so many different women's bodies.
Yes.
Just in that way. And we were like, oh, wow, breasts can look that way. Or, oh, wow, her vulva looks interesting. Or, it was like, oh, wow, there's so many different types of bodies. And you kind of learn your body in that way. Like, how has it helped you on your journey? Because I know you've been very outspoken about, the struggles with body image and particularly later on in life as a woman.
Yeah.
How's doing the show helped you?
I think it's really appealed to my natural curiosity as a journalist. And you're right to say that particularly as a woman, you're able to look at other women's bodies and go, oh, God, okay, well, that's interesting. Oh, she's got, I've never seen labia like that before. Yeah. Interesting. So there's the curiosity and the education there. And there's just that lovely sense of, do you know what? Everybody's body is normal. And there's that reassurance, isn't there, of, actually, I look okay. My body's okay. Because, everybody's body is okay. Everybody's body is different and it's okay. Our bodies work beautifully well. So there's that lovely aspect, isn't there, to acceptance of yourself. And one of the things that I'm really proud of about that show is the fact that we have people going on with disabilities. We have people who are transitioning, and the fact that they're prepared to stand there and go, look, I've got a stoma, or I've got one leg, or I've got a penis and breasts. And they're standing there saying, I deserve to be recognised and I deserve to be loved. I mean, for me, job done, really. Job done.
Yeah, that's so true. It's such an important job that you're actually doing.
Well, yeah,
with the show.
There's a sort of educational aspect to it that I really enjoy. But I mean, to answer your question very, very, briefly and bluntly, it's helped me to accept my body as an older woman. I recognise now that I'm less concerned about having the perfect body and trying to get into a bikini and, looking amazing, and more concerned with, do you know what? My body works and it works really well. And I'm proud of that.
How are you so confident talking about all of these types of topics? So, for example, me, if I'm with my girlfriends and we're like sitting around the table, we've had a meal, I'll be very confident and outspoken about sex or topics like that. But to go on TV and do it, and to stand in front of people that are naked in front of me, and to be so bold with it, like, how have you got to that point where you can just I'm just going to talk about this penis, and I'm just going to, because watching the show, I love how you just kind of walk around the room and you go, so what do we think of those testicles?
Those balls.
And it's just very blunt. And it's like, I don't know if I could ever see myself in that position. Yeah, genuinely, yeah.
Good. Well, you see, I'm going to reverse that question onto you and say, why couldn't you?
See, because immediately my grandmother's face just flashes in my mind.
Really?
Yeah, and I can just imagine her sitting there going, hey, my granddaughter, she's on television with naked people. Like, she would be like, what is going on? So immediately I just think of family, and I think they're going to see me and I'm going to talk about all these things. And it's just like, it's something to do with upbringing. But interestingly, because my mother's a devout Christian.
Yes.
So I've been raised with all of those morals and things. But you've also been raised in a similar way, but you've gone the opposite way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. So the weird thing about my upbringing, and, yours is very similar, actually, by the sounds of things. Devout Christianity. Did you go to church?
Yes.
Right, okay. It's a very, very similar thing. The strange thing about my parents, and one thing that I'm very grateful to them for, is despite this very sort of strict upbringing, they were also very accepting and very cool about allowing me and my brothers to be who we are. So it's a strange dichotomy of, Christianity, very strict parameters, but at the same time going, you can be whoever you wish to be. So, for example, when I left my partner of 18 years to be with a woman, I rang my dad. And I mean, my dad's a priest, he's a vicar. But I rang my dad to say, look, Dad, I've got something to tell you. You might be a little bit sort of shocked, but, me and Charles have split up after nearly 20 years. And I've met a girl. And my dad's answer was just like, well, darling, if you're happy and she makes you happy, that's all I care about. So there's that cool. So to go back to the kind of like confidence of it, I think maybe my parents have given me the confidence just to go, I don't care what you think.
Right.
Do you know what
I
mean?
Yeah.
It's like, this is about, we're all together. We come into this world as one, we go out as one. So, let's just level this a little bit and let's have some honest chat.
But that's so liberating. And I think that's why people love shows like Naked Attraction, because it's like they're sitting on their sofa, not confident enough to talk about these things, but then it's like presented to them in a way that they can watch from the comfort of their home and be like, oh yeah, this is like forbidden and I can watch it and it's fine.
But that makes me curious, because I would want to say to somebody, like I was saying to you, what is it? Is it the shame? Is it shame? In which case, F shame. Just get rid of shame. Yeah. It doesn't serve you. Let's talk honestly and openly. So that's what excites me, is to be able to have honest conversations about really difficult things.
Let's talk about some more moments that have shaped you in your life. Maybe the moments that people don't know about, something that's happened in your personal life. Let's think of one positive moment that comes to mind
this also comes possibly bound up with a negative moment. I mean, again, there's that kind of like yin-yang thing going on. So years ago, I was presenting a film show for ITV, and I was very, very fortunate that I was interviewing film stars, all day, every day, going to premieres, all the rest of it. And I had to interview Arnold Schwarzenegger in a sort of junket situation, which is, you'll have done a million of them. When you're kind of like in a sausage factory line of journalists, you go to a hotel, the star's sitting there a bit like this, you do a 4-minute interview with them about their film, and then you leave again. And during this particular interview with Arnie, and I have to choose my words very, very carefully here, but there was an incident, or there was an alleged incident between us. And subsequently, I took legal action, and I sued Schwarzenegger and his team for libel. So I have to be very careful about what I say, but I sued him for libel, and we settled out of court. Now, this is a great big story that's kind of like wrapped up in about 10 seconds of explanation. But that moment defined me in terms of, shortly afterwards, I spent a long time out of work, which was really difficult. So I went from presenting a show and working in television to signing on, and people going in my sort of local job centre, are you that girl that does that? I'm like, yeah, I'm that girl. Can I just get my housing benefit, please? Thanks. So it was very, very difficult times. But that taught me real resilience. And it taught me again to be unafraid to stand up in terms of what I considered to be an injustice. And it took me a long time, but the legal action that I took ended up in settling out of court with Schwarzenegger and his team. And I learned how to get back into television. So leave my presenting career behind, and I went back in a development role. So, but it took me a long time to get back in, but it's taught me a huge amount in terms of resilience and standing up and saying this isn't right.
So I know that you can't go too much into detail for legal reasons, but during that time there was an alleged groping. There was an incident between yourself and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And quite interestingly, what I find interesting is that you were bold enough to speak out, and this was well ahead of the Me Too movement. So in a lot of ways, you were sort of carrying that message long before that came about.
I think that women have been carrying this message for decades, and it's falling on deaf ears. But certainly in terms of my situation with what allegedly happened, I mean, I took legal action. And this was well ahead of the Me Too movement. And so when the whole Me Too thing happened, I felt really frustrated about that, because I thought, seriously? Are we seriously here again, 15 years later, talking about this? It's still going on. It is still going on. But yeah, I mean, I was there 15 years prior. But again, I think there's something about women and people speaking truth to power and just saying, this isn't okay, actually. This isn't okay. But yeah.
How long was that actual gap from that moment that you left your job to then getting back into it?
I reckon, so it must have probably been about 2 years. And it was difficult. And I got into a lot of debt. And, I don't know whether you've experienced this, and I'm hoping that it's changing now. But certainly there can be in this country the tendency to say, well, you're a presenter, so therefore you can't be a producer.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Or exactly, or you're a producer, you can never be on screen. Or, well, you're in development, you come up with ideas, you can't possibly exec. So there's this glass ceiling that we create for ourselves, which in my mind is absolutely unacceptable. So to go from presenting to then going into development, being a sort of program idea person, was difficult to do. And then to do that switch again from producing back into what I'm doing now, presenting, it's not made easy for you.
No, there's so many hats you have to wear. Like, I'm quite similar to you in the sense that I started out singing. And then as soon as I transitioned into radio presenting and then TV presented, everyone's like, oh, so you're not doing music anymore?
Yeah.
Or, oh, so you're a presenter now?
Yeah.
And it's like this desire to kind of put you in one lane
To
rather than
put you in
just
a
celebrate
box.
all the things that you do.
Exactly. And I can imagine that people probably would have said to you as well, oh, right. Oh, well, you're doing radio. Well, you can't do TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, or, the same with television. It's like, well, you do telly. You can't do radio. Whereas, we should be celebrating the fact that, do you know what? Hell, we're talented. We can wear those different hats. I am able to turn my hand to those different skills, as are you. And we should be, with everybody, applauding those different strings to our bow, I think.
So you took a huge risk at that point in your life to speak out. You lost your job. You completely turned your life around, but because you were so determined to speak the truth. How did you find that courage to do that at that point in your career? Because a lot of people in that position wouldn't be bold enough.
Again, it's a strange knowing that I have to do this. This thing that has happened is not right. And it's about speaking truth to power and saying, I don't care who you are. I don't care, what threats you come out with. It is about standing up and saying, this is wrong. This is unacceptable. And I need to put this right. So I think it was just that knowing that I need to speak the truth about this and try and put it right, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How did you carry that forward then in your life? Are there any other instances that you've gone, yeah, I'm someone who's always going to speak out?
Well, I think anybody who knows me, who knows me as a human being, wants to work with me, would probably say that, I'm unafraid to have those conversations. And I think that's okay. I think that there's something in this country, we're very afraid, I think, as a culture and as women,
yes,
to be able to say, I'm not happy about this, or we need to talk about this, or do you know what I mean? Or I'm ambitious, or I'm unhappy, or I'm annoyed, or I'm upset, or particularly with wanting to confront. We're taught as women that you're not allowed to confront. You should be quiet. Whereas if you're a guy, then it's acceptable to do that. So I think that I've probably raged against that, being forced into a box as a woman, to be told to just be quiet and don't confront. So that is something that will, get to me. So I kind of almost can't help myself but speak out about things that I feel are an injustice or not right, I suppose.
Yeah, I really admire that, actually. And even in friends that I've grown up with, that's a quality that I always really admire, because as I've grown up, I've become a lot more outspoken and a lot more confident. But it sounds like, talking to you, you've always had that. You've just always been like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Like, even when you were in school, you're like, yep, I'm going to be on TV. Yep, I'm going to do this. Like, you've always just been so courageous.
I have, but it's been very, very difficult. And it means that as a girl and as a woman, you then get told that you're difficult or that you shouldn't say these things. It's not what girls do. It's not what women do. You should do it in a different way. And I really struggle with the idea of should. For me, I would challenge back and say, why not? Why should I do it this way? So, again, I suppose I'd go back to, I'm very grateful to my parents and to my upbringing that I suppose that instilled in me, certainly within the Church of England and within religion, and it's very patriarchal, as you know. There was just something in me as a little girl that just sort of wanted to go, but why? Why is it God is some bloke and you're telling me that I can't do this? So, yeah, I think I was probably just really annoying.
Now I understand more the eye roll moment that your parents had when you got on TV.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing the picture painted for me.
I
I'm
know.
like, okay, you were asking all the questions in the vicarage.
Yeah, but they didn't want to answer.
They're going, oh gosh.
Here we go.
And then you're like, guys, I'm hosting Naked Attraction.
Yeah,
and it's
and
like, right, okay, here we go.
But I think maybe it's that sort of going back to the female thing. It's that sort of feminist in me. My parents' marriage didn't last, and I could just remember being, a little girl, and there were a lot of fights within the house between my parents. And I can remember sort of squaring up to my dad and, saying, "You've broken one of the 10 commandments about, being whatever, sort of good to your wife or whatever. So I think there's always been that sort of feminist kind of like in me of going, hang on a second, no, as a woman, as a little girl, I'm not prepared to be treated like this.
Who did you have in your life that inspired you or impacted you? Was there somebody in your personal life that you always looked up to?
Well, professionally, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that probably when I first started on The Big Breakfast, I mean, that was such a seminal moment at the time. I mean, it was early 90s. It was the show that everybody talked about. It was anarchy. It was chaos. Chris Evans was presenting. Gabby Roslin was, Paula Yates, who's now dead, was one of the key people on this show. It was madness, but it absolutely taught me how to be a broadcaster. And the person that I absolutely looked up to, the two people actually, it's Chris Evans and Gabby Roslin and Paula at the time. But Chris Evans, even though he also got tarred with he's a very difficult person, allegedly, to work with, that man is an extraordinary broadcaster. He absolutely, he knows how to do television. As a producer, as an exec, as a broadcaster, as a presenter, extraordinary. But my eye was drawn to Gabby, actually, and she's still going.
Yeah, she is.
And she knows that I have always admired her. So I met her when I was a baby, 23, 24. She was hosting every day a live breakfast show, every day with a smile on her face, every day a consummate professional. She absolutely did it beautifully well. She's one of the best live broadcasters that I've ever witnessed. And I think that she was always slightly in Chris's shadow. And actually, she was equal to him in every way. And it's really, really great to see that she's still going. And I've worked with her again as a presenter now.
Oh, wow.
And again, I salute her in terms of her ability to do live events. There's nobody else that can do it as well as Gabby. She's amazing. I know it sounds surprising, but if you watch that woman work, she's incredible.
No, it's interesting to hear from your perspective because you've watched everything from the inner workings, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So you know everybody from the moment they walk into the office, the moment they stand in front of the camera. All we see is what's presented to us.
And that's it. And you'll know as well as a presenter that, this is all people see.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to that in terms of our job. And I would like to say I think that's quite underappreciated a lot of the time. There's so much hard work that goes into presenting. You today you're doing 3 of these shows. All of that research, all of that scripting, all of that sitting in a chair and just beautifully, without really checking your questions or your script, just beautifully presenting that. That is a skill. So, I think we all deserve a bit of a round of applause. If you're a good presenter, it's a skill.
Yeah, thank you. I like that. I feel like we don't really celebrate ourselves enough. We kind of just go through the motions. And then, like, even when I did your intro today and you were going, wow,
God,
I sound amazing. It's like we don't do that, though.
We don't. And also I wonder whether... obviously it's been very difficult in the news lately in terms of presenters and people that are on screen. I think there's possibly a tendency to look at the job that we do and go, that's really glamorous. You guys just get a kind of like, BMW into work and then somebody gives you a coffee and then that's all you've got to do. It's actually, to be a good presenter, it's the art of being yourself. And it's the art of doing it without looking at your questions, knowing your subject, and doing it in a very smooth, slick way. Not everyone can do it. And so if you can do it effortlessly, then you're very, very good at your job. And as I say, I don't think that's often fully appreciated. I think that people regard us as being sort of, glamorous layabouts, really, that get overpaid.
Yeah, definitely. If only people could see really what goes on. At the hard slog that really goes into all of it. It's very, very difficult. But I guess if you're so seasoned and you've got the finesse, you make it look easy. Maybe that's what it is.
That's the art. That's the art of presenting. It's not easy. And you look at all of your equipment around, because often you must get this as well. You must get so many people saying, "Oh, how did you break into presenting? I really want to do it. What advice have you got?" It's really difficult, and not everybody. Look at you've got auto cue, you've got 5 different cameras, your mics. You've got to kind of know how to do that well, and it's not easy.
Is there anybody else outside of the industry in your life that has helped shape you or impact you?
Yeah, I think probably 2 people that I look up to and really admire from a personal point of view. The first person is my ex-boyfriend, Charles Martin, who is now a BAFTA-winning drama director. But when we first met, we were 2 babies, 2 researchers in telly together when we got together. And just growing up together, I think, in the industry. And he went off directing, I went off sort of producing and presenting. He's now transitioned into drama. But we did a show together a few years ago that I was series producing and he was series directing. And Charles has, without question, taught me how to manage a team in a really positive, vibrant, jolly, energetic way, how to manage people well, how to try and inspire them, how to do television well. We were in the office 24/7, we were at home 24/7, and it was just, I was able to look up to him in terms of this is how you make a show well, and I could learn from him. And I think the other person that I've learnt from is Sue Perkins, who went on to be my partner, just in terms of her ability to present, and particularly as a live presenter. Again, there's no one like Sue. That girl is so clever and she makes it effortless. And just watching somebody who's an intellectual titan at work and funny, I could sit and watch her work all day. That is somebody to learn from. She is extraordinary.
I like that you chose ex-partners, because a lot of the time when you ask people to reflect on their past or their history, people don't like to mention their ex-partners. It's almost like, nah, moved on from that. Like, I'm moving on. This is my life now. But we can't ignore that those people have been alive. I mean, your first partner was in your life 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ignore that those relationships impact you in some way.
Well, they shape you. You're married, right? So, exactly. Your husband and the people around you shape you. So from a sort of psychotherapeutic point of view, because I've also trained in hypnotherapy, so I'm very interested in the psychology of how we manage our lives. But from a psychotherapeutic point of view, we are an amalgam of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So they often say, pick your friends carefully. So you think about that if you're spending time with your husband, obviously as you do, you're with him 24/7, that person's going to have a huge influence on you. So I look back to Charles and how we grew up together, his family and my life and vice versa, and Sue. They've had a massive impact on my career, my life, and how you behave a lot of the time. So I have huge admiration for them both still, and they're still really good friends.
Yeah, I think it's important to always recognise those relationships, like regardless of whether you're with the person or not. Because people in your life, I mean, like you said, they literally make you the person that you are.
They make you. You can always learn from us, even if it ended really badly.
Yeah, there's always something.
Of course there is. There's a dynamic between you, and you can always look back at that person and go, I learned this, and this from you. And for that, I'm really grateful.
So you've spoken openly about the challenges that women face with body image, particularly later on in life.
Yeah.
How has your style and choosing the right fit helped you navigate that?
I've always had a very strong sense of style, that I quite like, quite a strong look. And maybe I've not really grown out of that, Fleur. Perhaps somebody needs to have a word with me. But I think there's something about, for me and my particular body, as I've got older, I know that tailoring really suits me. So again, looking at what you're wearing today, I'm kind of like, oh my God, that would be absolutely amazing to be able to wear that. Oh my God, I wish I could have worn, really short shorts like that. But tailoring works for me. It's about understanding your body and working it to its best advantage. So I have really big boobs, I have zero waist, and I've got quite good legs. So for me, a sharp suit, being able to nip it in at the waist, black obviously always works. So yeah, I think I've got quite a sort of solid sense of style from that point of view. I don't tend to deviate. I suppose once a goth, always a goth. No, it's tragic.
Once a goth,
always a goth. Never grown out of it.
That's so funny.
There was something going around on social media a while ago about there was me, Noel Fielding, Davina McCall and Claudia Winkleman, and somebody put, same person, different font. And I'm kind of like, fair enough. I do kind of like blur in with Noel a bit too nicely.
That's amazing. That is so funny. Oh my goodness. So if we want to look at your goth styles on social media, how can we follow you?
On social media, I am still on Twitter. So I'm at Anna Richardson. I'm on Instagram, which is again at Anna Richardson. I don't tend to do TikTok or anything like that.
I feel like you'd be great on TikTok.
Do you think so?
Yeah, like sex education videos on TikTok.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe I need to think about that.
You heard it here first.
Thank you. I just need to work out how you actually do it. I've hit that age though. I've hit that age where I now need glasses and I don't understand the kind of like, it's like, what is this sticker thing, link thing? So yeah, I need help from the youngsters. I'm looking around here.
I'll follow you. As soon as that is up, I will be following that page.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Oh, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Shaping Success, a Simply Be podcast. If you like what you've heard, please give us a follow and a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. Shaping Success is a Folding Pocket production.